I'm Amber, welcome to my channel. Today we are hopefully fitting solar on the roof of my van. I'm so excited, let's get ready. So here is a checklist of everything I used to add solar to my van. Scissors, a ladder. Make sure you get a really tall ladder. The one that I was using wasn't very tall and my roof is made of like wood and stuff, so you can't go on it because it's not very strong, and so it was really hard to reach where I actually needed to get to. A solar panel. I chose a Renogy 200 watt flexible solar panel. The reason I chose Renogy is because it's a well-known trusted brand and it was a good price as well. I chose 200 watts because that is the most the battery I had chosen would take in, and I chose the flexible one even though I didn't need it to be flexible. It's less than half the weight of their rigid 200 watt panel, and like I said, my roof is not super strong, and so I didn't want to have something really heavy on my roof. A drill, and obviously drill bits. A battery. I chose a Bluetti, which isn't really just the battery. It's got the MPPT charge controller built into it. It's basically a plug and play kind of device, so this really is like solar for dummies. You know, it's like the simplest way you can possibly do it. It's very hard to do anything wrong. And so you can literally just plug the 200 watt panel from the roof with a couple different extensions and things. I plugged it straight into the Bluetti. That starts taking in power, and then the Bluetti itself has outlets for me to plug in things like laptops and my phone, all different things like that. So this is just what works best for me. Obviously, in the future, if I wanted to, I could upgrade the system, keeping the panel that I've got, and upgrade it to a proper solar battery and full-on setup. Some screws to hold the solar panel down. I chose to use butyl tape, Sikaflex, which is an adhesive, and screws all together to really hold this panel down, because I've never really done something like this and I wanted to make sure it was really on there really properly. I chose roofing screws because they're supposed to be better for being on the roof. They're supposed to not let as much water in, so be a bit more watertight, and then I used Sikaflex with the screws as well. Sikaflex, it is a waterproof adhesive bonder, like filling, all sorts of, you can Google it, but basically I've used it to adhere the panel to my roof and also to fill in any like holes and things that I've had to make into the roof, like where I put in the screws and things, just to keep everything really nice and watertight. Gaffer tape, it's just always very useful on these sorts of things. I can't remember exactly where, but I'm sure I used it at some point in this project. Also, I got clear gaffer tape, which I didn't know existed until the other day when I saw it in B&Q, and I was like, this is my new favourite thing. I don't know why, but I just think it's so much fun. Double-sided butyl tape. I think I got mine from Tool Station, and it's like a really tacky, almost blue tacky seeming gluey stuff. And I've seen lots of people on the internet stick down these flexi panels with just butyl tape alone. But like I say, I wanted to go kind of overboard with it and make sure it was really stuck on there. So I used the butyl tape all around the edges of the panel just to hold it down. But honestly, I think you would be fine with just that. It's so sticky. Cable entry housing. I just got a really cheap little one off Amazon. I needed one that had 2 holes to come in. And something that I forgot to record is that to get the MC4 connectors in through the cable entry housing that I chose, which I will try and flash up on the screen now, I actually had to remove the MC4 connectors from the wire, but it's like totally safe to do. I looked into it, and basically you just kind of twist and yank it off, put the cables through the cable entry housing, and then reattach them once it was through, just so then they went through it properly. An MC4 solar extension cable, because the panel that I chose has MC4 connectors, and the panel only has, I think, 70 centimeters of cable coming off of it, so you have to get an extension cable for each of them. There are 2 cables that come off of it, so that it can actually reach all the way from the roof down to your battery. And I had to bring an adapter that would be able to plug the MC4 connectors into the Bluetti. I can't remember what this adapter was called, but the Bluetti came with one and I didn't realise that, so I also ordered one on eBay, so I've got a spare. Kitchen roll, very much needed when working with Sikaflex. It was starting to get everywhere by the end of it. Also, make sure you've got like a plastic bag or something to put all of the kitchen roll in, because it's going to be covered in like sealant and adhesive and stuff, and if you put it on the floor or anywhere, it's just going to attach to it. cloths and towels just to make sure you can wipe things down, make sure everything is nice and clean before you're putting adhesive on it, and just to keep everything nice and tidy. A hammer, an electric screwdriver, cable clips. I think I got 7mm cable clips, and this is just so that where the cables from the panel come in and are exposed on the inside of the van, you can just put them out of the way so they're not just hanging down and in your way all the time. You can tuck them neatly against the wall. And finally, a caulking gun, otherwise you won't be able to use the Sikaflex. I just cleaned the van and that took about 2 hours. Mental. Just quickly recording while the van is warming up. She's loud. I'm going to a barn that I found on Facebook through someone else, and they're gonna be letting me fit my solar in their barn so I stay dry. It is chucking it down today. We arrived at the barn and got everything all laid out, ready to work. I started to lay the butyl tape around the edge of the solar panel, and no, I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing that correctly. I bought quite a bit of this because you couldn't buy a smaller roll, but I really didn't even need that much, and it is a little bit expensive, but it was definitely worth it. It's really good stuff. I laid it all around the edge, even over the screw holes, as I would then screw through it later.
Right, get us a cool pose of the gun.
Next, I used the caulking gun to put Sikaflex all over the back of the panel. I was really struggling to get the caulking gun to actually work and to get anything out of it because it was very stiff. So I had to get my boyfriend to help with a lot of that. Like I mentioned earlier, it was really hard to actually reach the roof where we need to be working on. So once everything was all laid out, we got the panel up and ready and flipped it over onto the roof. I was then going to move it and adjust it into place, but the butyl tape was so strong, it was stuck down and we could not get it back up. So we flipped it over onto the roof, and it didn't land very even, but we can't get it back up. It's so stuck. So that's how it is. So I drilled through the panel, through the tape and into the roof, put in some Sikaflex, put in a screw and put in more Sikaflex to keep it really watertight. Because the panel didn't end up landing quite where I wanted it to be, the cable entry housing was a bit too far forward on the roof of the van and was going slightly over where the curve starts, and it wasn't really on a flat surface. I put it as close as I could to the panel and then used things that were heavy like the drill to kind of hold it all down and in place while it dried, and then I had to add a teeny bit more in the end afterwards. I forgot to film this next bit, but once the cables were all through and into the roof, and yes, a bit covered in Sikaflex, everything was, I reattached those chunky MC4 connectors back onto the ends of the cables and then pressed the cables individually up onto the ceiling and used cable clips and a hammer, just tacked them into the ceiling. Then I added the extension piece and did that with that as well. So here's the outside all finished. I couldn't get the scissors through those bags on the roof, so I'll get them down a different day. But it looks really good, and we tested it out, and here you can see it is actually starting to take in some sun and some solar power. And here's a really cute horse. I want to go right in the corner, so here. I'm going to do 4. I took a quick screenshot of the video just to show you how the cables are tacked into the wall and the ceiling. So there's just little cable clips on each one, and there's a teeny little nail that you just hammer into the wall and it holds everything in place nicely. I didn't have a very big drill bit, so I had to drill lots and lots of little holes, so it's not a very even or round hole. But here you can see, now that I've got a hole into the sofa, I'm just loading the extension wire and the adapter piece all together into the sofa, which is where the battery will be housed. Then I just had to plug it into the battery, and that was it. Completely done and ready to use, and it definitely works because I plugged in the drill and used the power coming in whilst I was drilling this hole. So all done and finished for the day, and here's a quick look at the view from my bedroom window so you can see the roof from a bit further away. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that some of you found it informative and helpful. I know a lot of videos about how to install solar, even if they try and make it simple, it can become very overwhelming and confusing. And so because I was doing basically just like a beginner's plug and play, super simple setup, I hope this was something that maybe seems more achievable to some people and maybe a little bit easier to follow along with. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see me going on adventures in my van, because that is coming very soon. She is so nearly ready for me to go away in. Currently the exhaust has just broken in half, so she's at the mechanics being fixed. But this week, as I'm recording this, I'm going away for the first time in the van. So subscribe, stay tuned for plenty more van content coming soon. Thank you. Bye.